Welcome to the sanctuary. I'm Kyle, and I'm here to welcome you into the pleasure den of the absurd. Okay, so, for people who have been watching the news and whatever, and, while the world burns, I figured I would show off my LP collection of my favorite comedy team of all time. And that's the team of Laurel and Hardy. Now, if you are unfamiliar with Laurel and Hardy themselves, you might be familiar of their influence through perhaps the characters of Norton and Cramden from the great television show The Honeymooners. That's Laurel and Hardy right there. Perhaps you're a fan of the television show Gilligan's Island, and you like the characters of Skipper and Gilligan. Alan Hale Jr. as the Skipper, to me, did the best Oliver Hardy impersonation out of anyone I've seen. And that's what he did. I mean, when he looks in the camera all exasperated, his finger twiddles and everything, and, holding his hands a certain way, and, his slow burn, that's Oliver Hardy. And here's a fun fact. Alan Hale Sr. was in I believe it was 1936 or maybe 38. I think it might have been 36. Feature film called Our Relations. And Alan Hale Sr. played a tavern owner who gets the twin brothers of Laurel and Hardy confused with each other, and as such is part of the plot of that story. Not a bad film, not their best, but a pretty good one, and one that Stan Laurel put a lot of effort into. Got a little production credit on there, even though he was already behind the scenes silent director on all their stuff that was made at Hal Roach Studios, and those are their best short films and feature films, the ones done at Hal Roach Studios. They later went on in the 1940s to do work at MGM and 20th Century Fox, but they were not allowed to ad-lib. They were not allowed to stray from what was written in the script, and you can't let these guys work like that. And so those films are written by people who didn't really know their stuff, and they're lousy, let's put it that way. But luckily, I've got a few compilation and soundtrack albums that showcase their finest work, and I'm here to brag about them a little bit because they bring me joy as the world burns. So the first thing here is this 3 LP box set, which contains 2 soundtracks. And when I say soundtracks, I mean this is the film on record. It's the entire movie on a record. And so here we get Babes in Toyland, which people may know under its alternate title, March of the Wooden Soldiers, and their other film, Way Out West, which was the first comedy Western ever made. Shortly thereafter, the Marx Brothers made one, the Three Stooges made one. Everybody was making a comedy Western after the great Laurel and Hardy, and it is one of their best films. And the other album on here is a compilation of stuff, And so, just to show you here, what's contained on that one is this. Look at this. My picture fell of Laurel and Hardy. They're excited too. So anyway, I got 2 of these, and the one on top here is one that I bought when I was a kid. And a lot of these records, these came out, they were released on Mark 56 records, generally in the early 70s up to about 75 or so. There's two names that you're going to see on these records, and that's George Garabedian. Says, if you could read it on the bottom, it says a George Garabedian production and product of Mark 56 Records. And the other name you're going to see on here is John McCabe. I don't know if you could see it. There's glare in the middle, but there's a nice little write-up in the middle. Folks, if you could, and if you want to, please donate to this channel so I can get a laptop and some editing equipment, perhaps a microphone, something to make these videos a little bit more interesting. Give me an editing machine and you'll see how much fun we'll have with these videos. But for now, I digress. Let's get back to Laurel and Hardy. So that three LP box contains this, which is the full movie. And again, look at this. Look at these guys. Doesn't that just make you smile? You know, look at these guys. Just seeing their faces alone brings happiness. So there's that soundtrack. And then there's this soundtrack, which again, I have 2 way out west. And boy, look at that glare. And George Garabedian, there he is, you know, Mark 56 Records. John McCabe, again, writing an essay on the back. John McCabe he wrote the original biography of Laurel and Hardy, Mr. Laurel and Mr. Hardy. I believe it was first published while Stan Laurel was still alive. Hardy died in 56 or 57. Stan died in 65. And John McCabe met both Laurel and Hardy in 1953, I believe it was, in England. And he struck up a friendship with both those guys, and even corresponded after Hardy's death with his widow, who answered a lot of questions. And the biography he wrote wasn't so much on the men and their lives, personal lives, so much as it was how it was they approached their comedy and crafted it as such. And so John McCabe is a pivotal figure in the propulsion of Laurel and Hardy, and him and Stan and a few other famous people helped start the international Laurel and Hardy fan club, the Sons of the Desert, which has tents, they call them tents, all over the world. And it's still strong to this day. As a matter of fact, I was at a car show a few weeks ago, and there was a guy wearing a Sons of the Desert official fez, and I meant to ask him if he really was a member, because I think you can buy them on your own, but you know, why would you want to wear it if you weren't a member already? But anyway, here's the third album, the compilation album. This covers a picture taken from still from the short Come Clean, which is really good. And this is just a compilation of various gags and stuff like that. And you know, I always like the photos on the back. And there's that glare, and a little write-up by John McCabe again. And so all these records here are in this box here. So, what else you got? Well, now you know why they wear a fez. This is, oh man, this might be their greatest feature film, Sons of the Desert. Now, I had this record, I think it's this one here, the actual copy that I had as a kid. And I would listen to this movie album, this soundtrack, all the time. And, you know, there's scenes from the film on the back. And, you know, it wasn't until like 20 years later that I actually saw the film. And by listening to it so many times, to actually see them doing the bits of business on film was like seeing it all over again. And I, you know, for the first time, you know, it was really weird. But it's a great movie. They belong to this, you know, lodge or whatever, just like Cramden and Norton, right? And so the idea is that they're all kind of obligated. They take an oath to attend their convention, annual convention in Chicago. These guys live in California, as we can see by their sash. And in order to get there, you know, Ollie has to, you know, get out of a trip that his wife booked for him and concoct some scheme to get that gets him and Stan, you know, out of the house and in Chicago discreetly, and then coming home. But again, trouble ensues. It doesn't quite work out the way the boys wanted to, and it's a great movie. It's great. And so there's this record here. Again, another compilation. I got two. No U-Turn. This is from the film Hog Wild. They would have people at Hal Roach Studios, excuse me, that would build these cars, you know, that were, you know, all weird and smooshed up and smashed up and going this way and that way. And so here's a nice still on the back. This is a compilation album of different gags and scenes and stuff from movies. But let's see if you can see this picture. This is on the set while they're filming, and this is this is from County Hospital. This is from County Hospital. One of their greatest shorts. You'll never find a man eating a hard-boiled egg more funny than in this film. And there's plenty more in there where that came from. As a matter of fact, I said in the beginning, you know, if you like Ralph Cramden and Ed Norton and Skipper and Gilligan, if you watch the movie Cheech and Chong's Up in Smoke, these guys do the same shtick as Laurel and Hardy. Cheech is Hardy and Chong is Laurel. And Cheech does all the mannerisms like Hardy, the exasperation, you know, he's Stan Laurel's once asked, you know, how did you guys come up with you getting him in all the trouble? And he's like, well, it was two characters, you know. We usually teams had a straight man and a comic, like Abbott and Costello or Burns and Allen. or Martin and Lewis. But this, there was two comedians, and Stan said that well, the big guy didn't want the little guy to know that he wasn't as smart as him, and that kind of a thing, and you know, there's comedy is timeless, and so here's a real special album. This is the first one I ever bought when I was a kid, and I love this photo of them right here, and I love the film strip holes right there, and here's another picture. Really nice. I always like that one. It's real nice picture. It's one of my favorites of theirs. And so this one was, you know, I would listen to this and, you know, look at the pictures from each film that, you know, goes with each track. And again, you know, this one has somebody else writing the liner notes other than John McCabe, but it's still Mark 56 and George Garabedian in production. So here's something weird about this, right? So this was, not sure when this was released. Anyway, I don't know if you guys are familiar with the name of Alan Douglas. If for any hardcore Jimi Hendrix fans, you will know that Alan Douglas kind of helped Jimmy out in the studio in the year of 1969 on multiple occasions, you know, being a sort of unofficial producer, you know, while Jimmy was in the studio laying down a bunch of tracks and stuff like that. And later, Alan Douglas, I believe it was in 1974, became he ran the Jimi Hendrix estate, and he started releasing albums, a couple of controversial ones, but some good ones nonetheless. Later on, he ran the Jimi Hendrix estate until Jimi Hendrix's family got it back from him. I believe it was around 1993, 1994. And so anyway, Alan Douglas, you know, he was a producer. He did other stuff back then. And he had a record company, Douglas Records, and he put out this record. Look at this, Naturally High. This came out in what, 1970, right? Now, this record here, okay, is pretty much the same one as this. It's got the same, you know, tracks on it, maybe in a little different order, but they're basically the same. And it's just fun, you know. And here's another one. It's kind of got a similar cover. This is from Hog Wild. That's another good one. And so again, they put stills from the films that are on here, and little bits of business and gags, and maybe some songs. You know, Oliver Hardy was a very good singer, and they usually had him sing in some of their shorts and definitely in their features. I think they always had a song or two that he would sing. Last is this album, The Golden Age of Hollywood Comedy. This is a double album. Actually, no, it's a single album, but it's gatefold and pretty cool. It's got a lot of interesting stuff in the middle here, and again, the back is pretty cool. There's that photo again, real cool, and some various promotional artwork and stills that, you know, you can't help but smile when you see these guys. You know, look at that. And that's fun. You know, there's a lot of good gags on here. And last is this one here, this is real fun. And there's been other recordings. There's a Dutch band called the Bohunks that do all of the musical cues that are so familiar with within the Hal Roach shorts. Like any fan of the Little Rascals, if they heard some of this stuff, this is a different band, Ronnie H. and the GG Band. Okay, these guys are playing the music cues of Leroy Shield. Marvin Hatley wrote their theme song, their famous theme song. And, you know, how many other comedy teams have their own theme song, you know? So, if you're a Little Rascals fan and not a Laurel and Hardy fan, you would love this stuff. You've heard all this before in all the Little Rascals shorts, and it's real fun, and it's performed exactly as you remember them. It's really good. This is fun. And like I say, there's another recently, I think it was in the 90s, mid-90s, the Bohunks released what was called like the Little Rascals music, the Leroy Shield cues for their shorts, and it was tailored to represent the Little Rascals, and that album is the same. And I just wanted to show that to you because it's fun. I've had a few of these for years, and I've collected some as the years went on. And I'm a huge Laurel and Hardy fan, and we'll get into some of the DVDs and stuff like that. There's remastering a bunch of Laurel and Hardy shorts that UCLA has the film elements, and I contributed money to get them to help get them remastered, and they put them out on Blu-ray, and they're sharp. They look really good and pristine and clean, and they're doing the same for the Little Rascals. I believe they have 2 or 3 now. Who knows, maybe 4. I didn't even know they released so many of the Little Rascals already on Blu-ray. So if you want to pick those up, you could do that. But in any case, we're no longer in another fine mess. Well, maybe outside of the sanctuary, you know, where the world burns. That's why you're always welcome to visit. Come in here and, you know, let all the troubles of the world fly by. Come visit me again, and never be afraid to step inside the pleasure den of the absurd.